They sunk cities under lakes. All that's just to keep us from knowing who the fuck we is and asserting our rights to the land and nullifying the unum sanctum decree.
Penitentiary. Yeah, that etymology, breaking down words, is crazy. Once I got tapped into that, you stop calling yourself smart. Stop calling, you know what I'm saying? It's like they really flipping everything. They really flipping everything. Got us out here casting spells on ourselves. This one just says they discontinued the show because they found the information on Bobby Hemmett speaking on Lovecraft.
That's totally possible because Lovecraft and American Gods got a lot of information in it. And Bobby Hemmett wasn't no slouch. He was putting all of the pieces together. When he got a clip.
And with American Gods, you saw they kicked Buddy off. Orlando, they kicked him off.
Oh yeah,
started dropping too
that's
much.
because of the character that he played. That's the worst motherfucker. That's the nigga that's gonna be telling y'all how to get y'all shit back. They didn't want that character portrayed from that level of self-control, clear, cognizant thought, and deliver such a potent message in media. It's a movie with Cicely Tyson and I think Robin Givens. Robin Givens tell her that she just don't want to be black, so she try to claim she Indian.
I know which movie you're talking about.
She ad-libbed her response.
She ad-libbed it?
Yep. That was spontaneous. That wasn't in the original script. She stood up and she said, "Look at me. My father was full-blooded Iroquois." Right? And then she went to give another family's message. She also ad-libbed the tail end of that family reunion movie done by Tyler Perry. You got to listen to it. That's a bad motherfucker. I got to
go back and watch it. I got to go. Yeah. And the crazy thing is, too, she looks just like, my mom looks just like Cicely Tyson.
Cicely Tyson was a Iroquois high priestess.
Now, where the Iroquois? That's like Northeast, right?
Well, it's hard to say now because everybody went to fight in the Seminole Wars. So we all got mixed up. That's why they called us Seminoles, because all of the tribes was mixed down there. You got motherfuckers from the Tonga Islands, from the Polynesian Islands, from Venezuela, from Brazil, all the way from Canada, from Alaska, the Inuits, all sending people to fight the Seminole Wars. We had so much concentrated force in Florida. When they did the Louisiana Purchase, Lewis and Clark Expedition declared the land as being abandoned. That's what made them institute squatters' rights under the Protectorate Agreement in order to occupy the land until the rightful heirs reclaimed it. That's what they did. That's what all the whole. That's what the whole story is about, Lewis and Clark.
Damn.
Which is also the story of Superman and Lois, because his name is Clark Kent.
Lois Lane.
Lois and Clark.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Now look, Lois is the lane. That's the road, the path. Clark is the Kent. Kent is the bank. Right? The bank name is actually Old Kent Bank. But he ain't the rightful heir because he's not one of the Earthborn. Go back and review the story again. It got a different meaning.
That's wild.
I love me some Chief Warhorse.
I was about to say Chief Warhorse is that guy.
Yeah, her. She ain't for no games.
Oh, you know how I'm thinking about? Nothing. Go ahead. I know you're talking about though.
Yeah, she got the
details in.
Right, because she started telling you about the paper genocide with the with the Trail of Tears and the Dawes Road Indians that they used to replace us on the reservations.
Mm. Okay, can you see this one? Nah, you probably can't. I'm gonna read it to you.
What about when the solar flares happens?
Won't everything be destroyed anyways? What's the point in saving the system? Even
No, look, everything not gonna be destroyed.
you
The
of the time.
solar flares is activating what was considered as junk DNA. The data was blocked out by a light lock. As we reclaim Earth, the light lock breaks free to allow the higher UVB rays to come in and activate the junk DNA, which will restore. Some of us will get total recall. I don't have total recall yet, but I got recall like a motherfucker. It's just not total recall.
That's wild. Okay, so this was him and Dr. G's last line. Okay,
I'm gonna tell y'all who is breaking down the solar rays. And y'all can tag him in the video. Is Kalai. Brother Kalai is the one who is explaining the UVB rays. I got a video on YouTube where he go through all of that, and then I show him the mysticism from ancient Kemet that ties to what he's talking about.
Mm.
Right. So, to find more about the UVB rays, right? Kalai is the right. That's what Big Mama got him doing.
You know what's crazy about that? I was on the live where you was just going off, and you was like, Big Mama told me I need to get in contact with somebody named Kalai. And I was like, I was already watching Kalai's page, so I was like, let me send him this guy. Like, it's just
it was Amun Ra.
Mm.
And everybody started tagging him, and he ain't know what was going on.
Mm.
Right.
Yeah,
but it took a minute for him to observe where I was coming from before he would communicate back.
Mm.
Right. But once we talked,
tapped into 5D.
Yeah. So once he seen where I was coming from, then he was like, "Oh, I need to talk to this brother." And then Uncle Shiz hooked it up where we could have a conversation, because a lot of people was trying to, that internet motherfucking social media fake beef shit. When motherfucker say he beefing with you, and then he tell you you beefing with him, and y'all, neither one of y'all don't know it. I didn't know we were supposed to be beefing. So the only way that I could. Right. So the best thing to do as a man is have a conversation with another man to find out if y'all really beefing.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had the conversation, he's, went through the sun, melanin connection with the UVBs and all of this, the solar flares, the effect on the earth. And I got a video from a couple years ago where I'm talking about all of the Egyptian description of everything he was talking about. And so when he got done, I say, if you don't mind, I'd like to go over what you were saying and show him how it ties into the metaphysics of Egypt. So then I went over it, and then we started having a conversation. But that's where we was chopping the game up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So y'all follow that brother Kalai, because he on point with the UVB rays and whatnot. He that's what he do.
And he really about it though too. He be walking up on police officers like he ain't got no fear in his heart.
No, he look. Only reason I don't do that, because I'm a little bit more extreme than he is by nature.
Mm-hmm.
If I walk up on them motherfuckers, it's not gonna turn out as smooth. We gonna have a whole different conversation, and they not gonna like it, and I'm not gonna give a fuck, which gonna make the situation worse. Mm-hmm. His self-control level is to the point where he can go confront them like that and talk to them like that. My self-control level is if I want to stay away from the motherfuckers before I give it to them.
That's because you're a Scorpio, fam. That's how we get. We don't show no emotion, because if we do, it's about to go the fuck up.
Yeah.
We nonchalant because if the emotions do come to the top, it's a wrap for you.
They asked about the Joe Biden Bible at the swearing in.
Inauguration, whatever.
Yeah. That was actually not a Bible, but a family grimoire.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been a grimoire / Bible, but it's a family grimoire. So whatever family his allegiance is to, that's whose book that was.
Mm. Yeah, that's what they were saying was a family Bible, but make that connection with the grimoire. Let's keep that one out of here. All right, so Paige again. She said Rod and Taj need to do another live because Taj agrees with you, Rod, but he still told them to address the living man or woman because they can rebut an oral declaration despite us needing to go back to it. Okay, so they can rebut just us orally declaring whatever we want to declare, despite us needing to go back to our oral traditions.
Okay. Well, we got to get Taj a chance to finish digesting the Indigenous Rights Act because once he do, they surrendered. They tapped out. That's the note on the table that the hooker leaves saying, or that you leave the hooker when you say, here's $20. Right. So they're like, here go your shit back. We leaving. Good knowing you. It was nice occupying your territory. Soon as y'all figure out who y'all is, y'all already back in charge. So the Indigenous Rights Act. So, he's still going over that information that's been presented to him on the new. He got to have a chance to digest it in order to finish giving the instructions. Right. And when he's talking about the flesh and blood living man that you need to talk to, you can't talk to that motherfucker because he hiding. He hiding. He don't want to be seen. He hiding. So you can't address him. I can't walk up to that motherfucker and put his ass on notice in his face, like what she's talking about, right? Because he's gonna hide, and he's gonna put a whole bunch of people in front of him as decoys. And this is why we had to go about it by exercising the blood rights and the hereditary rights to reclaim the land and restore the land. Right. So when they left us the note, yeah, it was nice fucking over y'all, but y'all probably didn't know that all of these things belong to you already. We just telling you right here because we on our way out the door. That's what the Indigenous Rights Acts are. It's the cessation or the secession or the ceding of the position by the imposters and the invaders to the rightful jurisdiction. So now we just have to exercise our oral traditional jurisdiction. Right? But as he goes over the paperwork, you will see that his instructions will start to be more specific. And then he gonna get to the point where he gonna say, this the nigga right here you need to be confronting. And whoever that nigga is probably got on the ship some goddamn wearing dip.
Got on up out of here.
But Paige Flowers, she on top of it. She know exactly what I'm talking about. And she done been at war with the Dirty Moors too, so.
Oh, word.
Yeah. So and she got audio of the motherfucker telling her about the bodies they buried.
What?
Man, look here. Them sisters, when they get the information and act on it, it ain't the same as me acting on it. I'm just gonna point you to them. They gonna make them motherfuckers confess.
It's a whole different breed.
Yeah, and she ain't for no games.
Nah, I caught y'all live y'all did together.
Yeah, she bought her business. When we first did that live, the first live we did together, she didn't know what I was talking about. You know what she did? She went behind me to double check. And she just flat out came back up and she's like, look, I might not agree with everything the brother say, but this part right here, he knew exactly what he's talking about. And then she go back because this is this and this is this and this happened and this happened and these motherfuckers did this and these motherfuckers did that. And I see it right here just like you see it. Right? So ain't nobody supposed to be 100% right. That's why we read the error when we understand in wisdom.
Right.
right? Because you're gonna make errors. So the error in the law of efficiency applied is telling you something on a Freudian slip.
Right.
Right. And that's how you see beyond what's on the surface.
Mm.
Like, let's say it's 10 of us outside in the front porch and we all talking about dogs. Right? All of a sudden, one of us in the middle of talking about a dog say we need to duck the shotgun. Nigga, look for this nigga coming with the shotgun. Because we probably gonna hear the dogs bark right before he show itself. The Freudian slip just told us he was coming.
Mm-hmm.
That's an example of how it worked. We weren't talking about shotguns, we was talking about dogs. But the Freudian slip was worrying about the shotgun. It could have been a dog named Shotgun, but he didn't make that clear to everybody in the circle.
Right.
Right? So now we looking for the shotgun. Lo and behold, here come a motherfucker coming through the motherfucking between the houses with a shotgun. And now we all ready because we read the error as a message.
Right.
What's this? What part does the Galactic Council play in
Our liberation.
if we don't do our part? They ain't gonna play no part.
Get back. Get back. Get back.
Right? But if we do our part, they're gonna make sure that it's enforced from a galactic perspective.
Right. How bad, famo? This we got the cat out the back door. This man and caught a rat and broke his neck. I gotta take him out. This little guy gone.
The cat caught a rat.
Hey, that must be some type of sign, huh?
Yeah, definitely a sign. What color is your cat?
Black.
Okay.
Yeah, he gone. You had him outside? Yeah, she was in here panicking. That's why.
Well, you know, women don't really care for them rodents too much.
Right.
Unless they grow up playing with them as part of their, you know, their culture.
Mm-hmm. Let me go ahead and wash these hands real quick. Right. Somebody. Now I'm gonna be thinking about that shit all night. Cause the other day, my bad, maybe you can't hear. Because the other day, I got another sign from Spirit. Like Hawks is one of my totems, and I see him everywhere I go. And the other day, I'm driving down the road, and a hawk swooped in front of the car with a rabbit. He didn't caught a rabbit, and he like Rod. When I tell you I had to brake because I was about to hit the hawk and the rabbit, like dead ass I had to brake. And I'm like, okay, that's God telling me it's time to strike. It's time to do what I'm supposed to be doing. But man, these little messages be coming now. As soon as you tap in, it's like they come nonstop.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. Everything is a message, but we don't read everything as a message.
Mm-hmm. That's real. Ain't no coincidences. I see it in everything now to the point where I be feeling like paranoid. I be like, come on now, you can't think of everything. Got to be symbolism.
Well, stop telling yourself that because that's where the paranoia comes from. If you go back to Elijah Muhammad said there's been thousands and thousands and thousands of signs. This shit is about to be a wrap. Elijah Muhammad said that back in the 60s. Right? So how many more signs has been given to us since then? So it's a lot of signs that we haven't been reading. We just been letting them go past, trying to fit into the society that was designed to oppress us.
Yeah, put a cage on my mind, basically. Because once I remove that prison of a thought process, then I'm able to really tap in and allow that to become a part of my intuition. But sometimes, you know, like I said, because I'm like, damn, that can't be a sign. Because like literally, it's like all day numbers, on top of that, it's like numbers, numbers, to the point where I don't even look up the meaning of numbers anymore because I know them all by heart.
Mm-hmm. So that's when you start using numerology and gematria in real time, and that even fines tune the message. So the message becomes easier to assimilate when you understand what numbers mean. Because this is why you wear a watch. This is why you're supposed to wear a watch. We got cameras on our phone. Clocks on our phone now, because the every second of the day is a new set of numbers. Think about that. Every second of the day is a new set of numbers. And those same numbers several times a day are anagrams of one another. Those are what you call connection points. Right? So 24 hours in a day, but 12 months in a year. Right? So they say one day to the year. That means it took a whole year for it to happen. So in 12 and 24 is 36, and 3 and 6 is 9, and that's the turnaround.
Right. And 12 is 3. 24 is 6. And you add them together, then you get 9.
Yep. It got to be able to work frontwards and backwards in order for it to fit into an accurate read. Right? So the 369 is a code. It's a universal code for turning something around, or when you get to what we call 3-point convergence, that's GPS. So you need 3 points of convergence in order to get past the 2-point coincidence factor. Anything more than 2 is no longer coincidence. That means that, pay attention, this is a real sign. Right? That's how GPS need 3 points of convergence.
They will have to wait until the end of life to experience, which is basically, really seeing, there's a spiritual plane is overlaying this one. It's alive more than this one, which makes this one more of an illusion. It's highly energetic. You walk outside, you see the trees moving, you see maybe something else in the Argyle or the spaces in the spaces, basically a whole nother world. But then we come into the Matrix, and they ain't mentioned nothing about it. They still over here trying to figure out whether God is Santa Claus. You see what I mean? So it's a stark contrast, but it's to see these things like now, and that's why we call it word salad now, right? Because they can get on the Instagram and be like, and we're creators, and we're co-creating together, bringing in our vision and unity, and they go in with the words, right? Because that's only one part of it, though, right? It's got the words got to connect with the heart. And so all of these power languages, right? Because the power language is almost even like a symbolic Reiki. Once you speak the certain tone, it open up certain things in the reality. All depth level stuff, all grandma level. Don't sit on my couch. There's plastic. Don't talk when grown folks ain't talking to you. I'm gonna pop you in the mouth. Kind of deep level of things, right? You just sit and then you watch. And, if you can, and then you learn. So all of that then starts evolving, involving, that's why all of this physical reality stuff starts becoming petty. It starts being about what happens to generations over thousands of years, what happens with the migration of the souls and the merging of certain types of entities, so it's all, let's say, higher level stuff. So on the lower levels, we have, let's say, this language, and they even pointed it out, Arabic and Hebrew, because you got to understand what they do Kabbalistically, right? But they're just like these derivative languages. One is used to handle the government. One is used to handle the lowest layer of the spiritual world. The priestcraft use one language, and then the gubernatorial uses another language, and then tries to manage the people through that language. We grew up in that system. Now, we're coming into that awareness like, there was something that existed even before all of this. And then that's when we start getting into, hey, I'm the creator of my reality. That's something that you don't just say, though. You, of course, step into that. And then you realize, now I know what I'm talking about. And it hit me the other night. It was simply saying this. Did you know how every aspect of what you deal with in the reality is generally momentarily, like stimulus? Like at every moment, you're feeling like, hey, I'm going to go in here and talk to my daughter. Hey, I'm going to go in here and get on the show. Or, hey, even the 7 from 10 minutes ago is basically gone. Like that was momentary. Right. Were we ever going to see that 7 again? You see me? So a lot of this stuff is, you know, when you really just meditate on it, all the same thing. And then that thought sometimes will send you into like this into a frequency where it's just all of a sudden like, you know what I mean? It'd be just like that. That's what we call the codes to the matrix, because you could just be sitting in something and then it'll hit you with like, hey, don't you see it's all impulses, it's all fleeting. So that makes it all the same thing. Nothing. And then from that point, the whole reality be gone and it feels good. You know what I mean? So this is, you know, that constant growth. So yeah.
But even the Christians, they got a verse in the Bible that said, he that dies but yet lives shall find eternal life. What do they talk about? The death of the ego. Not of the physical self, but the ego. Right? Because when you dispense with the ego, you can see eternity. We eternal beings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In infinite bodies. And Noble Ali say truth and falsehood strangely mix. This reality is the illusion that we using to express our creative potentialities. All of the alphabet was wrote by somebody. Who wrote them? Who wrote English alphabet? Who wrote Greek alphabet? Who wrote the Arabic alphabet and the Hebrew alphabet? What was they doing? Just sitting there and say, I just need to write some letters? Right? But when you study the occult sciences, you find out that all of the letters is assigned a whole bunch of energy frequencies.
Exactly.
It got a color attached to it. It got a musical note attached to it. Right? It got a number attached to it. Right? And it got a shape attached to it, geometry, trigonometry. Right? So every letter has the frequency, and when you put them together, it's like playing a harmonica. Mm-hmm. And this is where we get the verbal expressions using the language to somebody that we don't even know who wrote it. So we following the linguistic patterns of somebody we don't even know who he is.
Yep, and that is the
because that's who's controlling this reality. Because he's defined the reality by the confines of words expressed in frequency, color, tones, pitch, weight, and density. And once you understand that, you see beyond the words, and now you're moving into the realms of psychic expression.
So, in terms of, and this is absolutely amazing. I can't stress that enough tonight. So shout out to once again. We got 4,300 people in here. Shout out once again to everybody in the chat. In terms of, we talked about the ego. Oh, thank you. All right, thank you. We talked about the ego separating things, and Seven talked about how the ego likes to separate things. You know, there was a scene in the Matrix when Neo was trying to bend the spoon, and the little boy told Neo, "Realize that you are the spoon." I think, and I'm.
He said, there is no spoon.
There is no spoon. Yeah, there is no spoon. So, what? Saying that to say, we're taught to command reality, right? You have to command reality. You have to command things into existence. When I want something, let's say I wanted Rod and Seven. We gotta like, you know, use references. When I Seven laughing, when I wanted to do this show tonight, I didn't command Seven. I command you to do this show. He would say, "Nigga, get the fuck out of here." This nigga, if I would have said, "Rod Hayes, I command you to do this show today," he would say, "This nigga Rich is on drugs, brother Rich is bug." No, I had to ask Seven. I had to ask Rod, and then realize my intentions is a certain way, so they agreed to it. What I want to ask you when it comes to, because we know nothing is separate in our reality, our environment is an extension of our body. So let's say, what's that? What do they call that if I want this bottle to move with my eyes? What's that called?
Telekinesis.
Telekinesis. Do we have to use the same approach with these objects that we call inanimate, that we know is energy, that we know is intelligence? because we know the ether surrounds everything around us. So when we're talking to the ether disguised as a water bottle and we wanted to move, should I ask the bottle to move like I asked Rod Hayes to do the show? Is that the same approach? Because some people say command it. So I'm like, if we're going to get back to this high level of science where we could tap into telekinesis, do we command it or do we ask it like I asked Rod Hayes at Act 7711? So
look. With telekinesis, you using your mind,
yes,
right?
Sir. Yeah.
You using your mind. Okay, it's like draw inside the lines, right? Color inside the lines. What happened when the lines is moved in the point where reality and ideas merge and become one? And imagine that you took the energetic outline of the bottle and you move it, and the bottle in the physical world say, oh shit, I'm not in my location, I need to get on my mark for the show. Mm-hmm. So in the 3D world, it looked like it slid across the table because you energetically moved its place.
Right.
So it's psychic powers. You learn how to use the psychic powers by exercising the psychic power.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. You won't never learn how to use it if you don't try it. Right. You have to try it first. They got other things that they call telekinesis, but they're a little bit different. Like you got chakras in the palms of your hand. You can concentrate energy and roll the pencil across the table if you know how to rev up the chakras in the palm of your hands. Right.
And this is also, Rod, what I even, while you're on that point is to understand that there is energy field training. Like
energy field training.
Yeah, because they still have, you can go and catch some of these YouTube videos, these Nigong masters and Qigong masters that you could tell it's not a hoax. They're setting stuff on fire with one hand. One is like pulling, the other one's pushing. But these techniques, it generally involves, first of all, that you get familiar with your own energy field and realize how to project your energy field over things. Because that's what they really show us. Like even the old heads be having energy fields so large, it's almost like they can throw their energy field around the other disciples and even pull them like the disciples is on a net. Right. And so but I'm going to get to the command side of things though, because that's another aspect. But just from the roots, the training was to develop your energy field to a point where you would be able to put your energy field over things. And in that way, you can maneuver and manipulate that energy field, just like you saw Dynamo Jack moving that sword around with him just putting his chi all over the sword. And they use these swords too to hold energies of ancestors, etc., because objects like brass can be charged with this spiritual energy, right? But then when the whole command and that whole side of things, which is more like what you start seeing in the faith-based traditions, first of all, the root of it comes from dealing with spirits from the occult level and basically constraining spirits beyond their will, which is still the other side of what goes on in these spiritual religious systems is basically instead of being gentle and peaceable with the spirit, basically trying to entreat the spirit like an ancestor to help you with something, they try to confine and do harm or constrain the spirit, right? Which then involves these, evocation.
They extorting the spirit into doing their bidding.
Exactly. And that's where that, hey, you got to command, because then there's another level where it's like a faith thing. This is where faith, is also another level of power, because it pushes into, like Rob was saying before, like a catharsism where you convince yourself so much. It's like a mania. Some call it megalomania. But even in that, you touch into something that will have that bar, that cup sliding all across the table, whatever caused that. You see what I mean? So there are some that they get dominant with the field, and then they try to demand the field to do something, and then they try to work a system of magic in that level, versus one who has trained their field, versus another one who is entreating spirits with the different things that spirits are entreated by to do different things. You see what I mean? So the energy is a bit different on each of those.
It's the same thing that the people do in Hollywood. This is what they call it, selling your soul, but you can't sell your soul. You can only sell what your soul produce. And normally your soul production is some type of artistic expression. So whoever captures your artistic expression in the realm of magic has captured your soul. And that's why they always after the masters of the artists. They always want the original film because that's where the source of the power is.
Yeah, and the two-dimensional imprint of the signature on the contract. You see what I mean? And this is why, that's why we're also saying that still, you know, even with the Christian thing and the religious thing, this stuff is very dangerous. Why it can seem like a game, we still have thousands, if not millions of souls that are just, you know, they say you're going by the wayside because of not realizing the potency of this particular magic, if you may. And that comes from not even believing magic exists.
Yeah, because they turned it into fairy tales that only children believe in. So therefore, the adults are going to be too stubborn to indulge in childish fantasies of magic and mysticism. So they teach it to the children as if it's a joke, when it's the highest form of liberating art you can teach them. But by making a mockery out of it, they don't look at it as being potentially real. So they suspend their imagination through the 12-step thinking detox called education.
So real quick. So we're talking, and this is too good. This is too good, y'all. I knew it was gonna be good, but this is awesome. So speaking of fairy tale, and we're talking about, I mentioned earlier about ancient civilizations like Atlantis and telepathic civilizations. When we hear stories about us being half horse, half human, this shit was for real? Like, talk to me about, like,
that was called the mythic period of Earth.
Yes.
Talk to me. Explain this shit, Rod.
Okay, during the mythic period, you came in what's called your metaphysical form or your mythic form. Right. Many of them came in as fairies, gnomes, but now we in what's called the human phase of the development. So nobody's allowed to come in a mythic form, but you can still see the fairy in the face of the young human that's a fairy in the mythic realm. Right? So this is a genetic expression where you see the dude built like a horse, strong as a mug. He's modeling the energy of that centaur you talking about, right? Or he look like he kind of remind you of a bull, nose spread wide. He's looking like a minotaur, right? But the energy, we had to all come in human form. So Tahuti can't come in as a Benu bird. He got to come in as a man. And Osiris and Ra and Set and all of them got to come in human form. Right? And during this period, everybody got to have amnesia when you come in as a human so you can know what it's like and what you're doing to the humans when you're ruling over them. So you let the humans rule over the gods. And while they purging they corrupt humanity through catharsis, right? The gods endure the suffering in order to liberate the souls of the new ones. And there we go. You got the flow, Seven.
I have some extensive works on what I also call another missing link, which is the connection between humans and animals. And even what you see in modern shamanism, I would definitely suggest the final book by Michael Harner, where he spills the beans on just all of the indigenous cultures that he's been able to make notations on and their practices of going first through the middle world, which they show was, in trees, waterfalls, lakes, in special areas, hold access, and even just drum beats at a certain BPM will put a shaman or a journeyer in enough trance to enter into those portals. And then generally, once they get into those portals, if they have a quote unquote spirit animal, which I feel like is almost like when you always see the guys riding on something like griffins and all this, that we had a animal, if you may, that we rode on that made more of like the totem animals inside of our tribes. And to a certain degree, that like those cultures who still have access to their totem animals, they be all on the astral plane doing all types of stuff, continuing to, there's just a whole world for that. The mommies, the taitas, and all of that aspect of shamanism. But gleaming the knowledge that you see from these ancient medicines and what they're saying, they explain also heavily about how we have this totem side. And when you open up the third eye and you look at a person, you see, sometimes you don't even want to look at him, even as the homie, because it's like, wow, I didn't, you see what's under all of that. And I feel like that the reason why we have this sheath over us right now, the cloak, if you may, that makes us all look similar enough, was a part of the covenant to basically keep what would seem like natural predators, like meaning that some animals are naturally going to go into conflict, into more of a state of where they would even mix. Because even when we see there's huge contrast, like you were saying earlier, even between a lion and a tiger. I think that was one of your shows. Like lion and a tiger is, still different, but you can mate them together. But you go one more rung up, and that's why all this is about genetics, right? When you go one more rung up, everybody's in the same body. Now you can go and have a Chinese black baby. You can go and have when meanwhile before that was really a certain type of snake. And then over here, you got maybe another kind of entity, and then they weren't necessarily mixing. You see what I mean? So I just think, the jury could be still out on it, but it's not something to make finite, but it's still something to remember that the animals play a huge role in the building blocks. And a lot of this comes from the ocean. That's why I was showing, those actually it all comes from the ocean first. Like they show the fish with the lips, the teeth. You go to George Haeckel's radiolaria, you're seeing even the helmets of the Mongols, you're seeing the breastplates, you're seeing the cross, you're seeing the Virgin Mary. I'll throw some pictures up here in a moment, but even in the radiolaria from the ocean, it's almost like these shells contain what later on became the pancreas, what later on became the heart, what later on became the, in a way where all these forms, like when we talk about creating, a creator, like we see in the ancient texts, can put all of these different things together. You see what I mean? Like all of the stuff that we're made out of from different pieces and then meld it all together, and then it become like an organism. Then we start reproducing. You see what I mean? That's a creator. Or that could, some say, hey, now that happens genetically. It happens over a period of time. But what I like to look at is just the spiritual side. And you clearly see, like you will see a cat that looks, you can see the animalistic traits. But then also when a spirit jumps into somebody, like there's certain spirits that are more numerous, they make people do certain things, but you can always even see those kind of people, you know what I mean? When you learn how to even distinguish between the spirits. So I think we have a lot going on behind the scenes with the animal powers and forces that go ignored.
You mentioned the totem system. The totem system worked like this. If my totem animal is a gorilla, right? Whatever the gorilla has as his primary identifying strength, then if I focus in to the gorilla, I can harness that strength. If I need spiritual farsight, I tune in to the eagle, right? The eagle is known for his sight and his ability to fly at high altitudes. So now I use the totem of the eagle to look down on the situation from what they call the bird's eye view, right? I use the mole because I need to know what's going on in the tunnels. So the spirit of the mole will guide me through the tunnels if I tune in to the frequency of the mole, right? So the totem system, you are harnessing the frequency of the animal in order to use your psychic ability. You can tie your remote viewing to these animals. And when you do that, you can actually send a bird to go look at something you want to see, and the image will play in your mind like you looking at it. Right? This is the totem system.
Yes.
And how it works.
Yes. This is exactly even what the power animal is. That's why they say, hey, you You got to, because even when you approach these beings, it's almost like they're, you know, it's like a real relationship. So you can't just jump into the eyes of the eagle unless you have a relationship with that spirit. And they go on journeys to, and they have places. And that's why, again, the ancestors are so important, because, and being able to tap into that plane, because they'll tell you, yo, it's over here and here. You got to go there. Again, Michael Harner's book, he's got a story right in there. He went to a cave that the natives told him to go to. They told him, you know, you don't got to take no substances. You don't got to do nothing. Just bring some food, this food. And then when you eat it, once you're done, you know, leave a little bit out. He was in the cave. It was all pitch black. Got late at night. Then it got about 2 a.m. He was thinking nothing was going to happen. Then a spirit came through so strong. He felt the strength in his body. And then it said, I am bison. And then rolled through. You see what I mean? So these are spirit animals. Now, somebody who can't handle that energy, because there's stories about that too. They told him, hey, if you don't leave the cave, whatever you do, anybody who's left the cave before the morning time, it didn't go well for them. So there's always, you know, these are real things, you know, in contrast to what we see going on in reality with the play, these are real things. So you approach the ancestor bison. I was even seeing today, you know, this all rings in. They had this billionaire. He's like 6th richest man in the world from India. He's got this zoo. And he's taken all of these animals, especially the elephants, the lions, the tigers that were slaved and stuff like that. And he's created like the most advanced. I mean, the humans don't have anything this advanced. They even use an AI. They got the spa they got the the infrared treatment for arthritis, all that, right? And they show even how the elephants went and took the chains that they were in and threw the change. Like, you don't have to change around us. You see what I mean? So it's just realizing, hey, not only are these animals sentient, but people are also developing relationships with these beings, offsetting karma. All of Africa is full of using these entities to do a variety of things. Sometimes, and most of the time, shenanigans. That's in the degrees of the spirit. But when we're talking about, again, these pure totem animal aspect of things, they say one of the main benefits, because there could be many, but their ability to travel through the different worlds and the different planes. Like they try to make maps for how to get into certain spaces, but they always note that the power animals seem to not have the restriction in getting into certain spaces. So they often ride them. So I just, you know, I wanted to add that in there, because we definitely have a lot with our ancestors. I'm gonna throw up some images here, you know, just of that lion energy, you know, because this is a lot of, but again, you know, when we go into it deep, we often see, you know, and this is why it becomes like, you see the rebellion, as I said before, but you also see many of the great fathers. You see that lion-like nature, right? And then you also still witness other cultures. And I got like a whole book on this that just shows in facial features how animalistic features are built within faces, and you could see it more a long time ago. You can also see clearly that a lot of the, you know, certain races were really mating with certain livestock or had seemed to become offspring of a certain livestock. But then again, like I said, it all goes right under the carpet, because it's like, oh, okay, well, no, the animals they're lower than us. That's the main thing that'll come out. But if they're lower than us, that still makes them part of the foundation that we grew from. You see what I mean? But then again, when we're also looking at the animals, because we're looking at it also something else in a physical body, it still may be closer than some of the chimeras, but we're also looking like in these images where you see Buddy is clearly, he's tapping into something totally different, right? So we have spirits and entities moving around. And then one has to still, you know, this is a culture. So what we also find is a lot of times a person will come from one culture and then try to practice the rites and the rituals of another culture. And this was also talked about in this book, and how sometimes the cultural ancestors of that person won't accept those people coming into their domains, just as animals may be territorial. There may have been a conflict in the past with that person's race. So, you know, I always find that the exploration of the other world in the Middle Earth, if you may, always renders some really, really fat gems inside the reality to connect the dots. You know what I mean?
No, indeed. Yeah. Wow. Shit, y'all. Seven just keeps coming with these receipts and these, and
Right,
these
man.
images, man.
I keep up.
Dude, Seven, man, with these images, man.
No, I would just like to DJ Rod, you know what I mean? As far as like, you know, when he going, because I got images for days, right? I got AI.
Oh, man.
You know, it's like real time receipts, you know what I mean? Because that, you know, this is also, you know, just to speak to, even you had mentioned AI earlier and all this kind of stuff, you know, even beyond that, like real time education. Because what I'm realizing, you know, you can't convince a fool of anything. So you'd be a fool to even try. So sometimes we're really arguing or trying to prove a point to people who didn't even have a good upbringing, right? Didn't even have mom there or a dad there or a school of hard knocks or, you know, a prison old head or somebody there to help them go through the process. And now here they are. And they're at that level of awareness. And it's like, so now you have to take the role of like the teacher, but from the basic school, like, here, we're going to start off with pictures.